Hi, guys. My name is John LeClaire, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the research that I looked into, which was how can we effectively communicate with parents. I chose this topic because in our reading, it talked a lot about communicating with the athlete and social media, but never with the parents. And as a coach myself, I find that dealing with the parents is a big deal. It's a big part of our jobs. So, if you look on the left, you can see the athletic triangle where students are at the top and parents and coaches are the base of that triangle. Um, I read that when there's a disconnect between any of the three parties, it's likely that the positive outcomes of interscholastic athletics will be diminished. So you want to make sure all three people are on the same page. Also, as a coach, it's important to understand that parents have rights. Um, so you want to have those strong lines of communication because the parents have the right and responsibility to ask about the activities their child's involved in. And you, as a coach, need to make sure that you understand that those are going to happen and you're expected to answer those questions professionally. Uh, a timeline of communication is the preseason meeting is the most important one where you're really laying out the rules and regulations and the procedures of the season. In season, you're really doing your practices and your competitions. They recommended doing an in-season dinner where it's like a state of the team address where you can describe what's going well and the goals you have for the rest of the season. They also mentioned that a newsletter would be just fine in doing the same thing if you didn't want to have the dinner. And finally, if you're doing interscholastic athletics, it's good to have an end of season so you can talk about the things that went well because chances are you'll have them again next season or you'll have siblings next season. All right, preseason meeting, the most important one that you have. First is talk about interscholastic activities and how we as coaches are really here to build upon the growth of the individual, not necessarily the winning. We want to set our standards of behaviors, not just by the athletes, but by the parents themselves. And in one of the journal articles I read, it had this. It explained parents should abide by the parents' code of behavior, not shouting or criticizing athletes, coaches, or officials. They must attend as many as the athlete's games as possible and ensure that the athlete has timely transportation to and from practices and games. Parents provide financial and psychological support, but refrain from emphasizing winning over the process of skill and athlete development. Parents should encourage sports enjoyment. So that would be the big thing to hit home on in the preseason meeting. Now, anybody who's been coaching long enough may have dealt with a problematic parents. It did discuss that this is the number one irritant or frustration leading to coaches leaving. So we want to make sure as coaches we know what to do in these situations. If you are confronted by a parent after the game, when this occurs, in a firm yet polite manner, explain that while you'd be glad to discuss his or her concern, this is not the time or the place, and he should call and set up an appointment. If you're confronted by a parent after the game, if you keep getting constant attacks, you simply want to make yourself unavailable after games at all costs. Of course, make sure you're notifying your athletic director or your principal. If you're going to meet with these contentious parents, make sure you're meeting with an athletic director because they can explain the rules and explain that they could be prevented from attending future events. And that is usually a big deterrent for a lot of these problems. And finally, if a parent is talking behind your back and you find out about it, the number one thing they said is just take comfort and solace that you're really doing the right thing and doing the best you can. Believe in your abilities and just continue to be the great coach that you can. All right, so the major takeaways: communication process during the preseason can make or break your season. Make sure you're really setting those expectations and making them clear. A positive relationship with a coach coupled with an effective communication between the coach and parents can provide student athletes with a healthy environment to grow and develop. Make sure you have a clear plan for dealing with parents. All right, my discussion questions. Why is it important to effectively communicate with parents of your athletes? How would you handle dealing with a confrontational parent? And what aspects of the presentation did you particularly find insightful and why? Thank you, guys.